Boo! By Robert Munsch and Michael Martchenko. On Halloween, Lance went to his father and said, "This year I am not going to wear a mask. I'm going to paint my face and make it very, very scary."
"That's nice, Lance," said his father. "It's a lot less work for me. You go and paint your face."
So Lance went to the bathroom and painted. Worms coming out of his hair, ants crawling on his cheeks, and snakes coming out of his mouth. Then he went downstairs, walked up behind his father, and said, "Boo!" His father turned around and yelled, "Ah!" "Not scary enough," said Lance. "I wanted him to fall over." So Lance went back upstairs and painted. Green brains coming out the side of his head, one eye falling down over his face, and orange goop coming out of his nose. Then he went downstairs, walked up behind his father, and said, "Boo!" His father yelled, "Ah!" and fell right over. "Scary enough," said Lance. Then Lance put a pillowcase over his head, got another pillowcase for candy, and walked down the street. He went up to a house. Knock, knock, knock. A big man opened the door and said, "First kid for Halloween. So nice to see a little kid for Halloween." Lance lifted up his pillowcase and said, "Boo!" The man yelled, "Ah!" and fell right over. But Lance wanted some candy, so he said very softly, "Trick or treat." Nothing happened. He said it a little louder. "Trick or treat." Nothing happened. So Lance went inside, and there was an enormous table full of candy. He put it all in his bag. Ka-thump! Then, even though his bag was very heavy, he walked down the street and went to another house. Knock, knock, knock. A lady opened out the door and said, "First kid for Halloween. So nice to see a little kid for Halloween." Lance lifted up the pillowcase and said, "Boo!" The lady yelled, "Ah!" and fell right over. But Lance wanted some candy, so he said very softly, "Trick or treat." Nothing happened. He said it a little louder. "Trick or treat." Nothing happened. So Lance went inside, and there was an enormous table full of candy. He put it all in his bag. Ka-thump! Then Lance went into the kitchen and opened up the refrigerator. He took out 10 boxes of ice cream, 20 cans of ginger ale, 3 watermelons, 10 frozen pizzas, and a turkey. Lance dragged the pillowcase across the porch. He fell down the stairs and landed in the middle of the street. A police car came by. The policeman jumped out, looked at Lance, and said, "Kid, what's the matter with you? You can't sit in the middle of the street. Take your candy and go home." "Look," said Lance, "my bag is so heavy I can't even move. I live right down the street. Please carry my bag home." "Well, all right," said the policeman. "I'll take your bag of candy to your house." "Whoa, it's a heavy bag of candy." The policeman dragged the bag down the street, put it on Lance's front porch, and said, "Kid, you must have gone to 2,000 houses to get so much candy." "No," said Lance, "just 2. "Wait a minute," said the policeman. "How did you get so much candy at just 2 houses?" "Well," said Lance, "my face is so scary, when people see it, they fall over, and I take all the candy in the house." Said the policeman. "I'm a cop. You can't scare me. I want to see your face."
Okay, said Lance. He lifted up his pillowcase and said, Boo! The policeman said, Oh, if you think I'm going to fall over just because of a face like that, you are wrong. I'm going to run away. And he jumped into his car and drove away really fast. Zoom! Then Lance went inside and started to eat his first chocolate bar. There was a knock on the door. Lance opened it and there was a teenager, the kind of kid who is much too old to go out for Halloween, and still goes out anyway. He had a pillowcase over his head and a bag full of candy, much bigger than Lance's. Wow, said Lance. You must have gone to 5,000 houses to get so much candy. No, said the teenager, just 5. How did you get so much candy at just 5 houses? Said Lance. The teenager said, My face is so scary that when people see it, they fall over, and I take all the candy in the house. And now I'm going to scare you and take all the candy in your house. Maybe not, said Lance. I want to see your face. Okay, said the teenager. He lifted his pillowcase and yelled, Boo! He had worms coming out of his hair, butterflies coming out of his nose, and ants coming out of his mouth. He was scary, but not nearly as scary as Lance. Nice try, said Lance. He lifted his pillowcase and said, Boo! The teenager yelled, Ah! Dropped his bag of candy and ran down the street. Lance took the teenager's bag of candy and dragged it into his house. His candy lasted a long time. Every day, Lance ate as much as he could. He ate candy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He ate candy in the middle of the night. But his candy still lasted until next Halloween. The end. Happy Halloween from The Very Busy Spider by Eric Carle. On Halloween night, the very busy spider is looking for her friends. Who does she see flying high in the sky with the stars and the clouds, having a very good time? A hooting owl. Hoot, hoot. Who does she see hanging upside down in a tree? Who flies through the night as fast as can be? A friendly bat. Who does she see smiling up at the moon, hoping to join his friends very soon? A kind fox. Who does she see making a Halloween feast of a crunchy carved pumpkin, a sweet orange treat? The very hungry caterpillar. The very busy spider has found all of her friends, and now it's time for spooky fun before the night ends. Trick or treat. The end. The Berenstain Bears, Trick or Treat by Stan and Jan Berenstain. The sights and sounds of autumn were all around as Mama Bear pushed her shopping cart along the path that led to the Bear family's treehouse.
The trees and shrubs were ablaze with color. Farmer Ben's pumpkins stood bright orange in the October sun. The crows cawed noisily as they searched the stubble for bits of corn. Wild geese in great V formations honked high in the sky as they flew south. But the surest sign of the season was inside the treehouse, hiding behind Papa Bear's easy chair. It was Brother Bear waiting to try out his Halloween costume on Mama. It wasn't Halloween yet, but Brother and Sister couldn't wait to try on their new costumes. Sister was going to be a beautiful ballerina. "Well, what do you think?" she asked, taking the third position. "Shh," said Brother. "Mama's coming." Brother had chosen to be a spooky monster on Halloween. He had bought the spookiest monster mask he could find, and Mama made the rest of the costume. "Boo!" he shouted as Mama came in with the groceries. "Help! A monster!" she cried, pretending to be frightened. "It's only me, Mama," he said, showing his face. "So it is," said Mama. "Well, that just goes to show that appearances can be deceiving." "Appearances can be deceiving? What's that mean?" asked Sister. "It's just a grown-up way of saying that things aren't always what they look like," explained Mama as she unpacked the groceries. "Look, goodies!" said Brother. "Hands off, please," said Mama. "Those are for our trick-or-treaters who come to our house tomorrow night." Brother and Sister were very excited about Halloween, and a little nervous too. This was the first year they would be going trick-or-treating without a grown-up along to supervise.
"I'm not so sure I like the idea of them going by themselves,"
said Papa as he carved the pumpkin he got from Farmer Ben.
"It's pretty spooky out there,"
he added, making a scary face at the cubs. "Now, Papa," said Mama, "if Brother and Sister want to accept the challenge of going out on their own, I think we should encourage them. But remember," she continued, turning to the cubs, "there'll be strict rules. You'll stay in your own neighborhood, and you won't eat any of the treats until you're back home."
"Besides," said Brother, "we won't really be by ourselves. We made a trick-or-treat date with Cousin Freddie, Lizzie Bruin, and Queenie McBear."
"There," said Papa, putting the finishing touches on the jack-o'-lantern. Then he lit a candle inside it and turned out all the lights. It was pretty scary. The next day, Brother and Sister began planning the trick-or-treat route they'd follow that night. Brother got a pencil and paper and made a map of the neighborhood. That way, he explained, they wouldn't miss anybody. "Let's see now," he said. "We'll stop at our houses first. Ours, Freddie's, Lizzie's, and Queenie's. Then we'll do Farmer Ben's and our sitters, Mrs. Grizzle." "Mrs. Grizzle for sure," agreed Sister. "She usually makes special Halloween cookies." "And Teacher Jane, she gives out good stuff. How about Dr. Grizzly?" asked Brother. "She's into health snacks." "I think so, just to be polite," said Sister. "Gramps and Gran, of course." "Of course." "I'll tell you one place we are going to miss," said Brother, folding his map. "What place is that?" asked Sister. "That one," he answered, pointing out the window at the home of old Ms. McGrizz. It was a spooky, twisted old tree house in a thicket at the end of Crooked Lane. "We're definitely not going there," he added with a shiver. "Why ever not?" asked Mama, who was listening. "Why not?" said the cubs. "Because she's a witch. That's why not." "What utter nonsense!" protested Mamma. "True, Miss McGrizz is old and bent and rather forbidding looking, but I can assure you she's a perfectly nice person." But the cubs didn't believe her, not for a minute. They knew better. Everybody knew better. No doubt about it, Miss McGrizz was a witch, for sure. Just after dark, a pirate, a skeleton, and the wicked queen from Snow White came for brother and sister. They were Freddie, Lizzie, and Queenie, of course, and together they ventured out into the darkness with their trick-or-treat bags. Before they could get started collecting Halloween goodies, they were joined by some worrisome company. Too Tall Grizzly and his gang out for mischief. Too Tall didn't waste any time trying to get brother, sister, and their friends to go along with him and his gang.
"Come on, we'll show you goody-goodies how to have some real Halloween fun," he said, pulling brother along with him. "What sort of fun?" asked brother wearily. "Oh, you might say we're going to put the trick back in trick-or-treat," he said, chuckling. It was so dark that brother and the others didn't notice where they were heading.
"Hey," said sister, "this is Crooked Lane."
"That's right," said Too Tall. "We're going to play a few tricks on old Witch McGrizz."
"What sort of tricks?" asked brother.
Her gnarled, twisted old treehouse loomed ahead.
"First," whispered Too Tall, taking a roll of toilet paper from his jacket, "we'll decorate her house with a little of this. Then maybe we'll tie a few knots in her clothesline. Then smear some honey on her broomstick so she'll stick to it when she tries to fly." But before Too Tall and his gang could start their mischief, the front door opened and a bright yellow light stabbed the darkness. And there, in the doorway, stood the frightening figure of old Miss McGrizz. "Aha!" she said in a gravelly voice. "I'm ready for you." She then led the terrified cubs into a cozy living room. To their great surprise, there was a big tray of beautiful candy apples, all prepared for Halloween visitors. "Mama was right," whispered sister to brother. "Miss McGrizz really is a sweet, kind old person." The cubs thanked her for the beautiful apples and went about the rest of their trick-or-treat business. Later that evening, brother and sister were at home, looking over all the treats they had collected. The beautiful candy apples stood out, and Papa asked where they came from.
"From Miss McGrizz," answered brother. "From that scary-looking old grouch puss that lives down Crooked Lane?" said Papa. "That's right," said brother, taking a delicious bite of his candy apple.
"You must really try to remember, Papa," said sister, giving her apple a little lick. "Appearances can be quite deceiving." The end. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, by Charles M. Schulz. Every fall, the leaves on the trees turn brown and fall off the branches. Pumpkins grow big and plump in their patches. The air grows cooler, and people start to think about their Halloween costumes. And every fall, Linus writes a very important letter. "Dear Great Pumpkin," Linus writes, "I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night. I hope you will bring me lots of presents." "Who are you writing to?" asked Charlie Brown. "The Great Pumpkin," Linus replies. "On Halloween night, the Great Pumpkin rises out of his pumpkin patch and flies through the air with his bag of toys for all the children."
Linus's sister Lucy isn't happy that Linus is writing to the Great Pumpkin. "You'll make me the laughing stock of the neighborhood," she complains. But Charlie Brown's sister Sally doesn't think Linus is crazy. She thinks Linus is wonderful. He is her sweet baboo. "Wouldn't you like to sit with me in the pumpkin patch on Halloween night and wait for the Great Pumpkin?" Linus asks. Sally is thrilled. "I'd love to," she tells Linus. Later that day, Charlie Brown has a surprise waiting for him in the mailbox. "I got an invitation to a Halloween party," he exclaims. Lucy thinks the invitation must be a mistake. "There were 2 lists," she tells Charlie Brown, "one to invite and one not to invite." Charlie Brown knows which list he was probably on, but he decides to go to the party anyway. On Halloween night, everyone is planning to go to the party, except Linus. "My blockhead brother will be out in the pumpkin patch, making his yearly fool of himself," Lucy grumbles. She can't understand why Linus would choose to miss out on all the fun that Halloween has to offer by sitting around in a pumpkin patch. Everyone puts on their costumes. Lucy is dressed as a witch. Charlie Brown is dressed as a ghost. But no one can tell what he is supposed to be because he had some trouble with the scissors. Sally is also dressed as a ghost, and so is Schroeder. They figured out how to use the scissors just fine. Pigpen is dressed as a ghost too. Everyone can tell which ghost he is because a cloud of dust surrounds him. Snoopy walks by, also dressed in a costume. "Who in the world is that?" asks Lucy. "He's a World War I flying ace," Charlie Brown explains. "Now I've seen everything," Lucy says. Lucy declares that everyone will go trick-or-treating first and then go to the Halloween party. As they pass by the pumpkin patch, Linus sees them and gets excited, thinking they have come to wait with him. "Have you come to sing pumpkin carols with me?" he asks. "You blockhead," Lucy yells at her brother. "You're going to miss all the fun, just like last year." "Don't talk like that," Linus cries. "The Great Pumpkin will come because I am in the most sincere pumpkin patch." "Oh, good grief," Lucy exclaims. She marches off with her friends. It looks like no one wants to join Linus in the pumpkin patch to wait for the Great Pumpkin. Except, what about Sally? Sally is torn. She doesn't want to miss out on all the fun of trick-or-treating and a party. But Linus is her sweet baboo. What should she do? Sally runs back to the pumpkin patch. "I'm glad you came," Linus tells her. "You'll see the Great Pumpkin with your own eyes." Linus is positive the Great Pumpkin will pick this patch. Why wouldn't he? The Great Pumpkin chooses the most sincere patch to visit every year. And how could a pumpkin patch be more sincere than this one? Sally hopes Linus is right. Meanwhile, the rest of the kids go trick-or-treating. "Tricks or treats, money or eats," they yell at the first door. Everyone compares what they got. "I got 5 pieces of candy," brags Lucy. "I got a chocolate bar," exclaims Patty. "I got a quarter," says Violet happily. "I got a rock," says Charlie Brown sadly. And that happens at every door. All the other kids get wonderful treats like candy, gum, and popcorn balls. And Charlie Brown gets rocks. Lucy decides they have done enough trick-or-treating and it's time to go to the party. After all, everyone has a bag filled to the brim with treats. Everyone except Charlie Brown. He has a bag full of rocks. On their way to the party, they pass by the pumpkin patch again. The kids laugh at Linus and Sally for waiting there instead of coming to the party. "The Great Pumpkin will be here," Sally yells, defending Linus. After the kids walk by, Sally turns to Linus. "All right, where is he?" she asks. "He'll be here," Linus assures her. "I hope so," Sally replies. "Think of all the fun we're missing." And the Halloween party is a lot of fun. For everyone except Charlie Brown. At first, Charlie Brown thinks his night is looking up when the other kids ask him to be the model for the jack-o'-lantern. That sounds like a great honor. But then he realizes that being a model means having Violet draw a big pumpkin face on the back of his head. Meanwhile, in the pumpkin patch, Sally is growing tired of waiting for the great pumpkin. "If anyone had told me I'd be waiting in a pumpkin patch on Halloween night, I'd have said they were crazy," she complains. Just then, she and Linus hear a rumbling noise. They see a shadow emerging from the pumpkin patch. "It's the great pumpkin rising up out of the pumpkin patch," Linus yells. He is so excited to see the great pumpkin that he faints. But it isn't the great pumpkin after all. It is just the World War I flying ace on his way back from a very important mission. Linus wakes up and asks Sally what happened. "I was robbed," howls Sally. "Halloween is over and I missed it." She stomps out of the pumpkin patch, leaving Linus all alone to wait for the great pumpkin. Linus falls asleep waiting, and later that night, Lucy comes to bring him home and tuck him into his warm bed. The next day, Charlie Brown tries to make Linus feel better. "Don't take it too hard that the great pumpkin never showed up," he tells his friend. But Linus doesn't feel let down. "Just wait until next year," he tells Charlie Brown. "I'll find the most sincere pumpkin patch, and I'll sit in that pumpkin patch until the great pumpkin appears." The end.